The PlayStation Store is still running their great indoor sale, and we looked over some very cheap games in a past video. Those games were all under $5, but in this video, we're gonna take a look at some of the must-own PlayStation 4 games. These are essential to just about any library. They range in various prices, going as high as $30 and as low as $5. And as always, we are taking a look at these prices. If you were a PlayStation Plus subscriber, you do get a little bit of an extra discount, so just keep that in mind if you're not a subscriber. With that being said, let's get right into this. The first game is an obvious must-own title, and that's Uncharted for a Thief's End for just $16. Uncharted is one of the most iconic franchises that the PlayStation library has to offer. Naughty Dog is arguably the best studio in all of gaming. That is not hyperbole. They are just that good, and they'll be making an appearance on this list once again later on. But first, let's talk about Uncharted for a Thief's End, the culmination of the Uncharted franchise, the last main entry in the series for now, and it wraps up the story of Nathan Drake in a wonderful way. Introduced as Nathan's brother in Sam Drake, and they have some great interactions with each other. The storytelling is very gripping, the gameplay is as good as ever, and of course, from a technical standpoint, it is one of the best looking console games that you are going to come across, and now at just $16, it's a great pickup and a must-own title. Titanfall 2 for $6. Titanfall 2 is one of those games that I always want to mention and give credit to because it is a fantastic game. The follow-up to the first Titanfall game, and the first Titanfall game wasn't even released on the PlayStation 4. It was an Xbox and PC exclusive, and that game set a great foundation for the franchise, but what the first game really struggled is a lack of content and depth. With Titanfall 2, that is really remedied. Included is a traditional single-player campaign that's pretty good, and the multiplayer has so much more depth to it and is much more replayable. On top of all that, Respawn has really stayed up to date with updating the game and keeping it fresh. Unfortunately, from a commercial standpoint, it didn't do all too well, but now that it's down to $6, if you are even remotely into first-person shooters, I would highly recommend you to check this game out. Journey for $5. Journey was one of the best PlayStation 3 titles. It was one of the most emotionally gripping titles as well, and it had such a unique presentation. It was done by that game company who also did Flower, which is a very emotional game as well. Those games are just very interesting from a presentation standpoint. No, they're not worth your typical $50 or $60, but in terms of having a great experience, Journey definitely offers that, and for just $5, it's a worthwhile pickup. The Jak and Daxter Bundle for $20. So we typically don't mention PlayStation 2 on PlayStation 4 games all too much. However, the Jak and Daxter Bundle is down to $20, and this includes Jak, Jak 2, as well as Jak 3. And I already talked a little bit about Naughty Dog with Uncharted 4, but Jak and Daxter was a series that they also did, and it was fantastic. The first Jak game was a little bit more cartoony in presentation, but Jak 2 and Jak 3 really ramped it up. All three of the games are excellent platformers, and to get it on PlayStation 4, you got some better visuals, you got trophies, and all of those games for $20, it is great. Infamous Second Son for $8. Infamous was one of the fantastic new IPs of last generation. Infamous and Infamous 2 were both developed by Sucker Punch, and those games were really good, so of course when Infamous Second Son was announced, once again being developed by Sucker Punch, gamers were excited. Now, in all honesty, I would say that Infamous Second Son is the weakest of the three main games. It is absolutely not a bad game, and that just goes to show the quality level of Infamous and Infamous 2, but Second Son did lag behind a little bit in terms of storytelling and the content it offered. But of course, with this being a PlayStation 4 title, visually it's on another level, and the gameplay does have a little bit of variety to it, and at this price of $8, I would definitely give Infamous Second Son a look, and even if you didn't play the prior two games, you can jump right in with this title. Grand Theft Auto 5 for $30. Grand Theft Auto 5 is such a fantastic game. It's one of the most successful games of all time. It's hard to recommend at this point because it is such an old game. The original release came out in 2013, almost 5 years ago. It was later ported to the PlayStation 4 a year later, and that $30 price tag is still a little bit hefty, but as is the case with all Rockstar games, they really retain their value, but that goes to show how great the games are. GTA 5 has a ton of content on it. The PS4 version is great, and while online is a little bit of a mess just for that single player component, it is well worth a pickup. At this point, if you haven't picked up Grand Theft Auto 5, you really should, and $30, again, while it's a little bit hefty of a price point, it's still very much worth it. Fallout 4 for $20. Fallout 4 was one of the most hyped up releases of this generation, and with the enormous hype that came with Fallout 4, there did come a little bit of disappointment. Is it a bad game? Absolutely not, but I think expectations were just so high that there was no way the game was going to live up to it. Of course, with any Bethesda open world game, Fallout 4 does suffer from some technical issues, glitches, bugs. That's come to be a commonality in Bethesda open world titles, so you kind of just have to accept it. But Fallout 4 does have a great world of Commonwealth. It's vast, it's got a lot of content, and it's very well crafted. Yeah, you can rush through the main story and complete the game rather quickly, but then you're not getting everything that you can out of Fallout 4. I should also mention that the Game of the Year edition is available for $36. In my opinion, the expansions weren't all too great, so maybe you're better off just checking out the base game. But if you want all the content at once, the Game of the Year edition for $36 isn't a bad deal. Either way, if you've yet to play Fallout 4, you really should. Doom for $20. Doom has been one of the great first-person shooters of this generation, and that campaign is an absolute blast to go through. The gameplay is fast-paced, it's very engaging, and just an overall blast to play through. Again, there is some lasting power with the multiplayer component, but really go into Doom expecting a great single-player campaign, and it will absolutely deliver. Borderlands The Handsome Collection for $20. I've been speaking on content quite a bit when talking about games, and if you want sheer playtime for your money, it doesn't get much better than Borderlands The Handsome Collection. It includes Borderlands 2 as well as Borderlands the pre-sequel, and on top of that, you get all of the game's respective DLC content. That means you got hours upon hours of gameplay. We're talking if you want to do everything north of 150 hours, and even after that with the Borderlands games, they're always very replayable. You can play through the games with different characters, and they are still very engaging. Honestly speaking though, Borderlands The Handsome Collection did release back in late 2015. I kind of wish the game was a little bit cheaper. If it was $15, I would say this is an absolute steal, but for the content you're getting, $20 is still a ridiculously great price, so I would recommend it at that as well. And finally, let's go from one collection to another. Bioshock The Collection is available for $20. Now, Bioshock isn't very similar to Borderlands in that it's not going to offer you hundreds upon hundreds of hours of gameplay, but with Bioshock The Collection, you do get 3 games: Bioshock, Bioshock 2, as well as Bioshock Infinite, and the game's downloadable content, and those 3 games are excellent single-player first-person shooters. They create incredible atmospheres. Bioshock 1 was excellent. Bioshock 2 seemed to disappoint a lot of gamers. I personally really enjoyed it, and Bioshock Infinite is arguably the pinnacle of this series. It does feature a different style of presentation and setting, but it works out great nonetheless. In terms of quality gameplay out of a first-person shooter, it doesn't get much better than Bioshock. Just some of the best gameplay you're ever going to experience out of an FPS. It's satisfying, tight, and overall very rewarding. Again, the games aren't very long, but you do get 3 games, each 10 to 12 hours, so it's a relatively decent amount of content for your money. And of course, with these games now being on the PlayStation 4, you get all of those added visual benefits. And $20 is a solid pickup. So that's gonna conclude this video. These are 10 games that are essential for any PlayStation 4 game library. All of these games are really good, so you can't go wrong with any of them. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What games are you picking up? What have you already picked up? Sound off down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.